Hey Pretty Girl Club, this video is inspired by content creator Exotical Epiphany. She did an excellent video talking about lust or labor and how in a lot of cases the men that you're around have you there for those two reasons or one of those two reasons. So be sure to subscribe to her channel. She's got a lot of excellent analysis content over there. So if you like psychoanalysis videos, if you like people who break things down and they pull up definitions or they pull up different charts and stuff to make their points, definitely subscribe to her channel. But I want to talk about this because this actually ties in with one of the videos I made about decentering men, where I talked about how men and women friendships, oftentimes you are there for labor. You know, you're there as his emotional labor. Oftentimes you are there as his backup girlfriend. That's another thing that a lot of guys will do. So let's say he has a girlfriend or a wife, he will have 5 or 6 female friends kind of on the back burner, texting his phone every morning, like, oh, hey, good morning, Scott, how are you? You know, so he's just getting all of this free micro validation. By the way, be sure to look up my video about having multiple sources of validation, because a lot of men will actually do this with women. So even if you're not doing physical labor for that man, oftentimes you won't be realizing it, but you're doing emotional labor. I've also seen men utilize this tactic in the workplace. They will befriend the women in the office because they know that they can push off their extra work onto that woman. They know that that woman will start packing his lunches or bringing in bagels because she knows that Scott, the VP, he loves bagels. And so now that man has figured out a way to somehow utilize you even for labor. So that's actually a good question to ask yourself, even if you analyze every man in your life. I've even seen men do this with their own daughters, where a lot of men, of course, they want to have children because, you know, then they get to utilize those children for their labor, particularly their daughters. Anytime a parent gets sick, anytime there is a funeral that needs to be planned, normally it's the daughter that is arranging the care, or in some cases the daughter will actually move in with the parent, or she will have that parent moved in with her, and she will make sure that grandpa or granddaddy or uncle is taken care of. So if you break down some of the different types of labor that women end up doing for men, it's emotional labor. So these are the female friendships. You know, you're acting as his free cheerleader. You are acting as his free networking partner, because oftentimes men will actually go out of their way to make friends with pretty girls, because he knows that even if one pretty girl rejects him, if she has 5 other friends who are also pretty, now he just got an in to your whole entire social circle. Or in some cases, men will be even crazier with it, and they'll try to talk to your sister, your cousin. And so that is something that men utilize their female friendships for. It's actually for both. It can be for both lust or labor. I've actually heard a lot of stories, especially if you go on Reddit, you will see a lot of anecdotal evidence to where a lot of men have admitted to jagging off to their female friends or to jagging off to their wives, sisters, like Instagrams and stuff like that, or they'll have like all these saved files on their phones. Why do you think a lot of men are so guarded with their phones? Well, it's because a lot of men utilize women's Instagrams as a source of lust. So like I said, in a lot of cases, you're going to be in that man's life for lust or labor, whether it's on a micro level, like maybe you don't know him and it's some random guy looking at your Instagram, or maybe it's up close and personal, and he is your male friend and he has ulterior motives. Another form of emotional labor that a lot of guys will use women for is providing comfort, providing empathy. Did you know that a lot of male friendships, they're not very in-depth? You know, like men don't sit there and go on these existential rants and just listen to each other for 3 hours. But you know who I have seen talking on the phone with a man for 3 hours? A woman. So a lot of times men who have no sense of status or they have no voice in society, a lot of those men will utilize their female friendships so that he can finally feel heard. You know, he wants somebody to listen to all of his red pill ideologies. He wants somebody to listen to him get on his soapbox. And so that's another form of emotional labor that men will put onto women, because they know better than to try to put this on another man. They know that if they were to call their homies, that their homies aren't going to stay on the phone with him for 5 hours. But for some women who are lacking in validation, they will stay on the phone for 5 hours because they feel like, oh, well, you know, at least I'm getting some sort of attention. And this is why, like on my channel, I try to promote having other sources of validation so that you don't fall for these types of traps, because 9 times out of 10, male and female friendships are benefiting the male the most. But another form of labor is domestic labor. So my theory is actually that most men do want marriage. I do not believe this talking point that like most men don't want to be in relationships. Nope, I actually believe that the majority of men are way more desperate for any sort of relationship with a woman because of how much labor that woman can provide. You are giving him a 50% discount on his bills. You're giving him sexual labor. And when I say labor in regards to sex, think about how much labor you have to go through as a woman to maintain your sexual desirability. When you go out and run that 5 miles so that you can maintain your six-pack, guess what? That's a form of labor. And that's a labor that he is going to benefit off of sexually. When a woman goes through the mental discipline that it takes to have a good diet and to like not eat a bunch of Twinkies and stuff to maintain her body, which contributes to sexual desirability, that is a form of mental labor because you had to discipline yourself to eat a certain diet. When you think about how much money it costs as a woman to get your Brazilian wax, to get your shaving stuff, to get all of your hair stuff, taking care of your hair, taking care of your lashes, getting your nails done, getting your toes done, having pretty feet. If you look at that Pop the Balloon series, which I'm considering doing a psychoanalysis series on it, depending on how many of you guys want me to, but even if you look at the Pop the Balloon series and you look at the men when they're trying to roast the women and stuff, they will roast the small details, like getting your nails done, getting your toes done. Oh, her feet look ugly. Oh, her arms are hairy. So all of that upkeep that it takes as a woman and all of the money that goes into that, guess what? Your labor from your job, that 9 to 5 job that you worked, that office job that you spent the last month working at so that you could afford to get your arms and legs waxed and to get your pedicures and stuff, that's still a form of labor because it contributed to your sexual desirability. So even when you talk about being desirable in the eyes of a man in general, there is labor that has come behind that. And a lot of guys don't really appreciate this or they don't realize it because a lot of men can get away with looking sloppy or looking ugly if he has money. And by the way, be sure to check out my video called Dating an Ugly Man is Not the Solution. Because I really don't feel like if the guy's ugly, then suddenly he's going to be a good person. No, a lot of men have an even worse inferiority complex than women do. But that's another form of labor, though. The labor that it takes for a woman to maintain her beauty and to maintain her desirability. If you have long natural hair, you already know that it hurts your arm to blow dry your hair. Like it literally hurts my arm if I'm blow drying my hair for a long time or I'm like, doing straightening and stuff. That is a form of labor. My arm is sore because I was trying to look cute or because I was getting dressed up on this date or, paying $800 to get your braids done because you're going on a vacation. That is still a form of labor. Another form of labor that women often do is childcare. Oftentimes, women are the primary caregivers. They are the default parent. The women are the ones who are going through the entire pregnancy process. And even if you think about a lot of stay-at-home moms, they're still doing work off the clock. Basically, they're never off the clock. So a lot of men who are working and their wives are at home, the reason that he's allowing her to even stay at home is because he is kind of working off of the premise that she's going to be the one who's always getting up to care for the baby. So if the baby's crying at 2 a.m., you are expected to get up and care for the baby. Oh, because he has to go to work. Meanwhile, even if that man was single, he still would be going to work every single day. So he's really not losing anything. He's actually benefiting off of your labor because if your child grows up and becomes successful, guess who's going to take the credit? Oh, that's daddy's little girl who got into Harvard. That's daddy's little man who got into the NFL or who got a football scholarship to go to college. And so oftentimes women, when they are having children and stuff, they're doing all of this childcare and they're actually setting up those children for success. And then that child is going to grow up and oftentimes the credit is going to go to the father, or the father gets to have this legacy that in a lot of cases he unfortunately doesn't even deserve. Another form of labor that women give to men is social organizing. So, for example, women are usually the ones who organize the cookout. They make sure to go to the grocery store, get the propane, get the stuff to do the barbecue. They get the charcoal or whatever. They make sure to go and reserve the spot at the park if it's first come, first serve. Usually women are the ones organizing family reunions. They're planning the surprise party. They're planning little Johnny's party. They're keeping track of Johnny's schedule for the soccer team, and they're making sure that the kids are organized with their events. And another thing that women provide is women are actually a source of social connection for men. So, like I said, even in male and female friendships, a man will go to some sort of social event like I don't know, a gym or something, and he will specifically make friends with the pretty girl because he knows even if she's pretty and she doesn't like me, she probably has 10 other pretty friends. So that's still a form of labor. You actually served him socially by being in his presence because now all 5 of your girlfriends feel safe around him because they're like, oh, I just saw him with Sarah. Yeah, he seems like a nice guy. So now you just open the door for him to have access to 5 other sources of micro validation for himself. And then as the woman, you really don't gain anything out of it because oftentimes a lot of men have lacked like emotional availability and stuff. So as a woman, you didn't even gain anything out of it, but he gained like 5 new girlfriends. And this is a trap that I see women falling for all the time. It's actually the friendship trap. And this is why I say that men want women way more than women want men, because without a woman in his life, a lot of men have no social lives. They have nothing exciting going on unless he has some sort of girlfriend or female friends, because the women are usually the ones who are doing all of the social organizing. They're setting up the happy hours. You know, women often, we keep up with all the events going on in town and all the concerts and all the free parades and the free like yoga classes and whatever's going on in the city. A lot of men aren't doing this. If you look at the habits of the average man, the average guy just goes to work, comes home, plays video games, jacks off to porn, and goes to sleep. But the average woman actually does not do that. And part of this is because I have a theory that a lot of women do not have as much of an addictive personality as a lot of men do. And I think this has to do with kind of emotional development. So a lot of women, we are naturally more social. Like women are very good at creating emotional connections. And so men will actually use their female friendships so that they can gain an emotional connection with another woman. Because think about it. Oftentimes, women who met their boyfriends and stuff, a lot of women actually meet their boyfriends through their own friends or through their own mutual female friends. And so that's actually proof. And by the way, I mean, do what you want to do, but that's actually proof of what I'm saying, that a lot of men on a subconscious level, they're utilizing the social labor of women to their advantage. Another thing that guys will do is they'll use their own sisters. They'll be like, oh, I had so many sisters growing up, and so I know how to treat a woman, or, you know, so they're using their sisters to give them social tips and tricks and to teach them basically how to run game on a woman. So their sisters, they're using their sisters for social strategy. They're using their sisters to gain a social advantage over other women outside of the home. Same thing with like mama's boys and stuff like that, or men who are constantly clinging to their female family members. They're actually having those women in their own family teach them how to seduce a woman, teach them, you know, how to attract a woman. Oh, okay, women like it when I have this type of haircut. Okay, they like it when I wear this type of clothing. Thank you, sis. So that's actually another form of labor. It is the social organizing. It's being the social connector to a man's life, because a lot of guys would not know how to socially connect without a woman teaching them, whether it was their mother or their sisters or their female friends. Another form of labor is supporting him in his career aspirations. This happens a lot of times in the workplace, like I said, about men and how sometimes they will push off their work tasks onto women. Let's say he's a manager or something like that. This actually used to happen to me when I worked in finance, and it's why I got pissed off and decided to become an accountant, because the accountants, who were usually men, they would push off their accounting duties onto me, and I didn't know it at the time because I wasn't experienced, but they would push off that duty and then they would go back and brag to their bosses, oh yeah, you know, I did all the checks and I did all of the books, I balanced the books. So men actually do this a lot in the workplace, hence why they want to become managers and stuff. Not only do they want the social status, but they also want the actual power to subjugate the women beneath them so that they can sometimes like push off their work, and then it helps them to attain their career goals and to move up even further. So that's actually another form of labor right there. Another form of labor is education and intellectual labor. So these are the women who will write their boyfriend's resumes. These are the women who will apply for scholarships for their boyfriend. I remember when I was in college, part of the reason I broke up with my college boyfriend was because he wanted me to do his homework and apply for scholarships for him. So a lot of men actually do have this sort of behavior where they will use a woman's intellect. Do you know how many men have tried to use me as their personal therapist? because I like psychology and stuff. So they will try to utilize me as their personal therapist. That's a form of education, educational labor, and intellectual labor. So instead of him going out and reading the books and doing the research and applying for the stuff and learning how to write his own resume, no, he will go to the nearest smart girl that he knows. So a lot of nerdy women fall for this, or women who maybe they feel like they don't have social status outside of their intellect. So this is where you get kind of the popular jock in high school cheating off of the nerdy girl's paper, because he knows, okay, she doesn't get any male validation. She is starved for validation. So let me tell her she's pretty so that she'll do my homework for me. Let me try to be nice to her so she'll give me the answers to the test so that I can get into college. A lot of guys are actually getting into college off of, being able to cheat off of a woman's paper or have a woman tutoring him or helping him intellectually. Another thing that helps to prop men up on a macro level is your compliance. Complying and supporting a man in a public setting. This is where the pro-black movement went wrong. You had a lot of men who were very propped up, and you only got to see the men at the top. You didn't see like all of the women who were behind those men kind of organizing the marches. They were passing out waters out on the street. They were organizing the bus boycott. They were organizing the timing of when to meet up. They were out passing out the flyers. They were disseminating the information in the churches. There are so many men who have actually made it to the status of being historical icons off of the backs of the women in their own communities. And I actually do agree with the talking point about the pro-black movement, how a lot of the pro-black movement was really just pro-black male. And then you really did have a lot of women out protesting and out helping those guys and organizing everything so that they can prop up those men. That's a form of labor. You are complying with the man, you are supporting him in a public setting, and then you're actually allowing that man to lie to you and get you to be kind of like more race loyal, like, oh, we're both black, we're both Hispanic, we're both Asian. So they will utilize your ethnic background sometimes as a manipulation tactic so that that man can be propped up. And then a lot of those men, when they get into these high positions of being the president or being some sort of historical icon or being some sort of social justice leader, a lot of those men will mismanage the money. They're just profiting off of the labor. A lot of these pimp preachers and pimp pastors, the church, on average, the church is about 70% women. I've seen so many stats about like church attendance and how churches in general are majority women. So the majority of things that you see, even in the church settings or in religious settings, are run by women. So all of the organizational stuff behind the scenes, it's run by the woman. But on the side of the church, you see, Reverend Dr. Jerome Walker. So you only see the man's name at the forefront. And so that's actually another form of a guy utilizing your compliance and utilizing your support in the public eye as a form of labor. Another form of labor is personal sacrifices. So many women make sacrifices in their own careers, in their own personal freedoms, in their own ambitions. So for example, if you're giving up some of your work tasks so that you can help Scott do his accounting stuff, well, now you're actually sacrificing your own competency so that you can help someone else. And then when you tell your manager, I was helping Scott doing accounting, oftentimes the boss will look back at you and say, well, no, you didn't do your part of the job. You didn't do your job. So now you're fired, or now I'm going to write you up. So there are a lot of women who are making personal sacrifices. They're moving out of the country for a man. They're moving out of the state because of a man, or they're moving to a new city only because of a man. Those are all personal sacrifices. So that's actually a form of labor. You're picking up your life so you can be with him. He didn't have to lift a finger. You just came to him. You just presented yourself to him. So that is still a way that he is utilizing your labor. Okay, now let's get into the lust part. What are some of the ways that men can use women for lust or for lustful purposes? Number one, sexual objectification. Oftentimes women are seen as sexual objects of desire, and so this is where you get those women who have been traumatized because they have not been sexually objectified. This is actually another form of trauma that men will put onto women. They will treat them like crap, they will treat them like they're subhuman, or they'll treat them like they're invisible because they're not pretty, because that man does not find her sexually desirable. And so the repercussion of that is you will get women who create these videos saying, I don't have pretty privilege and that sucks, or, I've been invisible. So a lot of men actually perpetuate these inferiority complexes in women because they are not viewed as sexually desirable in the eyes of that man. So that's one of the ways that men actually utilize women for lust. For a lot of women, like wearing makeup or being cute and stuff, a lot of women are doing this because they understand how society works. And they understand that if you're not viewed as attractive, a lot of men won't even listen to you, won't look at you, you'll be completely unheard. And so this is where you actually get a lot of kind of the jealousy between women or the competition amongst women. A lot of it is rooted in men actually utilizing women for their own lustful desires. Number 2, pornography. A lot of women obviously are depicted in porn, and the porn industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. A lot of men can't even go more than 30 days without looking at porn. And so actually that was one of the main things that made me kind of step back and take marriage off the pedestal, because a lot of men are addicted to porn. Like if you look at the difference between women's sexuality versus men's sexuality, let's say a man and a woman are in a relationship. For a lot of women, if a guy says, hey, I don't want to look at porn, I just want to focus on each other as in terms of sex and stuff. I don't want to be addicted to porn, I just want to focus on me and you, pleasuring each other, and that's it. Most women would be like, oh, okay, no problem, not a big deal. But for a lot of men actually have to lie and say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I don't want to look at porn, I don't need that. Oh, they're whores and bitches, and oh, they're Jezebels, they're demonic, oh yeah, fuck them. So a lot of men will actually live a double life because of a porn addiction. A lot of men will sacrifice their families. They'll sacrifice their children. There are actually a lot of women who have been traumatized by their fathers because they'll walk in and their father is jacking off to porn, or, their father is being influenced by porn. And some interesting facts about porn is that the majority of porn features women in a violent way. It features these over dramatized sexual acts where women are being violated and painfully, they're having sex, but it's very painful for the woman. So that's another way that men use women for lust, but it also has a negative side effect of kind of brainwashing that man into normalizing, being with a teenager, for example. If you look on Pornhub and stuff like that, a lot of those titles and tags are going to say teen, or it's going to say underage, or stepmommy, stepdaddy. I've heard a lot of stories unfortunately, of women's husbands touching on their daughters and stuff like that. And part of this has to do with the brainwashing of pornography. So that's another way that men actually will have women in their lives for lust. Not to mention the entire Madonna whore complex. A lot of men only think of women in 2 ways. Either you are the wife and the mother and kind of the matronly person, or you're the whore. There is no in between. So for a lot of men, if he cannot find a way to utilize you either for lust or for labor, you're invisible. Because in a lot of men's eyes, you're either a wife and a mother or a whore. That's it. There's no in between. There is no, oh, she's a scientist, she's a lawyer, she's a doctor, she's a human being. Nope. For a lot of guys, if you don't fit into one of those categories, wife and mother or whore, then they're going to get confused, because a lot of men use women just for lustful purposes or for labor. So if you don't fit into the lust or the labor category, they're going to say you're useless, basically. So a lot of men, they actually come on my channel, they say that I'm a radical feminist separatist, or, they demonize me because they don't see me as somebody that they can use either for their lust or for their labor. Number 3, as far as ways that men use women for lust, sexualization in the media. A lot of women, we are portrayed in ads and movies and stuff in a sexualized manner. So, for example, we will be showing off our curves and stuff like that, and men will use that as material for jagging off, or they will use that as their fantasy material. And so this actually influences things like maybe the beauty standard or men's standards. This is where you get men saying, oh, well, you're a 6 at best, or you're average at best, or you're mid. What they really mean is, I'm so addicted to porn and Hollywood and Instagram to the point where I think that all women look like that. And so if you look like that, if you look like Beyonce, you're just mid, because that's all I'm used to seeing. I'm used to using women for lust. And so if you are just another woman that I lust after, that makes you mid. It makes you mediocre. It makes you average. So anytime a man says that, all he's doing is exposing the fact that his main interactions with women are via Hollywood, porn, and social media. And we all know that any form of media is going to feature some sort of sexualization, or men will find a way to sexualize it. So much so to the point where people don't even show their children online anymore because they're scared that some creepy men will sexualize even their children. Another way that men use women for lust, Sexual harassment, you already know. A lot of men seek after these high political positions, or they seek after being the CFO, the VP, the manager. Why? So that he can be in a position of power and be surrounded by beautiful receptionists or beautiful admin assistants. I've been in this position multiple times. There are tens of thousands of women on this channel who have also been sexually harassed, whether it's at work, whether it's like maybe you wanted a certain job or a certain internship, and then that man will utilize his position of power to fulfill his lustful desires and to use as many women as possible for lust. A lot of men will become pastors so that they can have access to as many women as possible, because statistically, churches have more women than men. Churches also have more desperate women who are looking for husbands. They're looking for validation and stuff like that. And they don't watch channels like this for the most part, so they don't know that most men are not in church. Most men are actually anywhere but the church, but for the men who are strategically smart, they will seek out being a pastor so that he can be propped up and he gets to sexually harass as many women as he wants in the church. And then, his wife is going to cover it up, of course, because she's enjoying the lifestyle. And so it's a whole thing where guys will seek after these high positions so they can subjugate and dominate women sexually. The next one is transactional sex. So, for example, this is like the men who will pressure you. They will try to coerce you. Usually this is done by men in power positions. I just recently read an article talking about juveniles. So like women in these juvenile centers, these detention centers, how a lot of them get harassed, unfortunately, by the officers that work in those settings, or people who do like trafficking and stuff like that. That's another way that men utilize women for lust. It is via trafficking, it's via coercion, it's via you doing that in exchange for something. So you get a record deal if you sleep with me, or you get money if you sleep with me. Another way that men use women for their own lustful desires is stereotypical roles in entertainment. So for example, all the Disney princess movies and stuff, the entire romantic comedy genre, and just movies in general, oftentimes there has to be a woman centering her life around a man at the end, or, if you look at the majority of media, usually there has to be some sort of love story involved, or if not love, she has to at least be having sex with some man, or she has to at least be seducing a man. So that's actually another way that men will try to brainwash women into fulfilling his lustful desires. And so for a lot of innocent children, like young girls who grow up watching this stuff, they think it's normalized to the point where they become male-centered. A lot of men love it when you're male-centered, because then he gets to use you for lust however he wants. The next one is sexual exploitation. So this is like the guys who are OnlyFans agents and stuff. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to be an agent. I'm going to connect you to more people so that your OnlyFans can grow. That's actually, usually that's just a form of sexual exploitation, or like pimping and stuff like that. There are a lot of pimp preachers out there. Unfortunately, there are some fathers who will even pimp out their own children. The next one is double standards. That's another way that men use women for lust. They will judge or criticize women for sleeping with other men, but then they will judge or criticize you for not sleeping with him. So that's a double standard. It's a reverse psychology way that men will try to get you to feel bad and kind of prove yourself to him. Another thing that I've seen is triangulation. A lot of men use triangulation so that women will sleep with him. So if you're a dark-skinned black woman, he'll say, I don't like light-skinned women, I only like dark-skinned women. And then if you're a light-skinned black woman, he'll say, I only like light-skinned women, I don't like dark-skinned women. So no matter what your phenotype, your skin tone, your body type, men will try to triangulate you against another woman, and he'll try to like prop you up and make you feel good about yourself so that you can sleep with him. Or sometimes he will do reverse psychology. So he will prop up another woman in your presence. He will be looking at other women in your presence. He'll be complimenting other women in your presence as a humbling tactic so that you will try harder to prove yourself to him. And usually the way that women try harder, quote unquote, is via seduction tactics. So sleeping with him. Another way that men use women for lust is cyber exploitation, revenge prawn, taking pictures of you without your permission, taking screenshots of you on FaceTime. He'll ask you to do a little striptease or something, or he'll ask you to try on clothes, and then he'll be screenshotting how you look so that he can exploit those images later on. So Exotical Epiphany's video about a lot of men keeping you in their life for lust and labor, that's actually very true, because I can't really think of a lot of scenarios where you would not be utilized for either lust or labor. Something else too is men will actually have a pretty girlfriend or like a supermodel girlfriend or something because it enhances his status in the eyes of other women. On this channel, we have a lot of women who have experienced pretty privilege, and we all know that men will actually try to utilize you as a status symbol because a lot of women who are jealous of you, they will then go and chase after that guy that you just dated. So you're actually increasing his status and you're increasing his market value by being seen with him in public. So that's another way that men use women for lust. Having you on his arm is like a message to other women, like, oh wow, he must be rich. Why is he with her? Oh wow, why is this short, fat, bald guy with this tall, gorgeous supermodel? Oh, he must have money. Okay, maybe I'll talk to him next time. Okay, maybe I will show him some respect. That's another reverse psychology that men use. And it's a way that he upgrades his status so that he can attract other women to cheat on you with, basically. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.